Let's have a look, Dave. Just check we're live. Have a little look. You know what we should do? We should actually do like snippets of actually the first 10 seconds of these lives, because we always know we're live.
Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? We can do it. We can take the dance track. Yeah, we are live.
We are live. Awesome. Wicked. Yeah, hey guys, Andy here and Dave from EverTrek HQ, another Tuesday tune-in.
Hello.
Yeah, if you have joined us, today is a little bit different actually. I know we always pick a subject and we like to take on some questions, but today is all about pushing through the pain. It's quite a big one. It's quite it is quite different, because a lot of it that we're talking about today will be some mindset stuff, and I know it's kind of people like, talking about mindset again, but it's really important, which is why we thought, right, let's talk about it today, as well as everything else. But yeah, if you have joined us, I noticed there's a few joined us now. Dave, Miko, Sinead, Jackie, Byron, Amanda, great to see all you on. Again, do give us a thumbs up if you've just joined us. And yeah, comment with any questions. So as always, on Tuesday Tune In, although we like to start off with a particular subject, we're obviously happy to take on loads of questions. Chris Tom is on here as well. Chris, get your questions in, mate. Tamarin, Victoria, loads of people.
Robin, I was just about to email Robin, I've sorted you all out, mate. You should have had the emails by now.
Yeah, Robin's just booked in, but Leah as well, she's saying hello to the Social Yeti. Whilst we're on the subject of Social Yeti, yep, any questions, she'll be sort of noting them down. She's obviously working from home, but she'll be just popping them through. Good afternoon, Bri. Good to see you on, mate. Good to see you on. I see so many people on here.
Yeah, like Brian's made a face mask out of the EverTrek buff.
I did see that. Brian, I loved it. I think we need to get some of those made. They'd be fantastic, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, actually, Brian, I think, is going to volunteer to make them. So yeah, Brian, we can send you a load and you can make them free of charge, obviously. And
yeah, exactly. No, it'd be great to get some of those sort of made. Yeah, Brian, let us know how you made that exactly. Do a walkthrough for us, mate. I'd love to see it, because I know that Mr. Johnson is going to be bringing in some rules relatively soon, isn't it, about making them mandatory in certain areas. So if you're going to use one, use an EverTrek one. But right, Dave, yeah, today then. So pushing through the pain, where should we start?
Yeah, I think it's to try and nail it down. What we're talking about specifically is sort of the difficulties. I say difficulties, challenges is probably more of an accurate term.
Yeah.
That you have when you go on any trek. Certainly, we went out on a trek on Saturday.
Yeah.
My first trek since lockdown, really, that I did any sort of real distance in. And I had some pain to push through, mate. I know. Even more than that, it's about how to keep yourself motivated, how to keep yourself enjoying yourself, how to keep the banter level up. When you're on a really tough day, like Kilimanjaro Summit Day, Everest Base Camp on the way up to Kalapata, those two things sort of stick in my mind.
Yeah.
It can get to a point where it's not very pleasant. If any of you have seen the movie Everest, there's an amazing bit where Rob Hall says, you've all had the brochure, and we don't describe getting to the summit in the brochure. Now, why is that? And then he says, it's mostly just pain.
That's good memory, mate.
And there's certainly a lot of that on the trips that we offer, but there's also something about it, because we keep going back, we keep doing it. And it really is just, we're just gonna to talk a little bit about, why things that we do to try and keep ourselves going when the going gets tough. And be interested to hear any other techniques as well that you EverTrekkers have as well. So if there's one particular sort of thought, mindset, action that you take, share it, guys.
Yeah, definitely. There's already some questions coming through, but I know Social Yeti will be noting those down, guys, and we will take them on. So yeah, when it comes to pushing through the pain, then, and I hate to sort of almost not teach you to suck eggs, but because it's quite, some of it is quite cliched, but it's important to know when to push through and when to not push through. Is kind of the big one. But yeah, I mean, just to go, we were out hiking on Saturday. First long hike that we've done, Dave, isn't it, since lockdown? I know.
Yeah.
I've been out for a couple of hours. Just on a small hill near Penavan, in the Brecon Beacons. Fantastic place if you've ever been there. I know Mick, who's just joined. Afternoon, Mick. He knows that place very, very well. as well as I'm sure a lot of you do. But yeah, we were out, and it was really tough conditions. I mean, an hour or two in, there's they call the Carmarthen Vans, which is basically the western part of the Brecon Beacons. Some of the most beautiful parts of the Brecon Beacons, actually, but it's actually really quiet.
I've never seen them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, yeah, because there's always been bad weather every time.
Every time I've gone there, it's been like trekking in the inside of a ping pong ball. Just don't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be on it with your navigation out there. But it is energy sapping. I mean, it's quite boggy in certain parts. So where we were walking to, it's imagine you've got some sort of like a mountain ridge, and in the middle it's like this big bowl, and in that bowl, you know, all the streams sort of feed down. I think it's actually near there is the source of the River Usk. So you can imagine there's a lot of moisture and certainly added to it when we had 8 hours of rain. So yeah, it was tough conditions, and I think all of us were struggling a little bit. You know, we haven't been out much, so the legs were heavy. Rain, you know, there was a lot of stuff that sort of made it tough for some people. It was cold, but you know, you kind of crack on with it. You know, something that I haven't done for a while, but I took a bit of a tumble. It was my turn, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah. It was quite hilarious.
I know, and pretty much I just stood on a rock, crossing a stream. Didn't really check if there was any moss on it, but there was. And next thing you know, I'm Superman facing down the stream. You know, so I was a bit battered and bruised. Yeah, so I had a limp for a little bit, and it's kind of one of those things. It wasn't until afterwards, and it was all about not saying I pushed through the pain, but I tell you what, it hurt. And you know, there was parts of it, and I was thinking, bloody hell, you know, that was one of those things. But it's hard to explain. All of you are on here. I'm sure there's been parts when you're out and you're thinking, oh man, this is tough. Yeah. But you kind of crack on because you're that sort of person. And it is similar when you're on a trek and you're, you know, if you're having a bit of altitude issues, if you've got a headache, maybe even if you've got a dodgy belly, lack of energy, there might be sort of thoughts creeping through your mind of, you know, am I done? You know, can I just turn around and go? You know, and it's important to know those certain things. I mean, obviously, if you're having really bad, you know, altitude issues, you know, you want to talk to your guide, and, you know, you certainly don't want to be pushing through that. You know, the odd headache, you know, you're going to get headaches from altitude. That's because of the change in pressure, because dehydration, everything that comes with it, you're going to get headaches. That's just the way it is. So don't let that scare you. Obviously, if you're having it every day and it's not going away, that becomes an issue. Yeah. You know, but that's when you call about pushing through that barrier. Obviously, you don't want to push too far, you know, when it comes to high altitude. Would you kind of agree with that, Dave?
I think so, yeah. I think, yeah, it's about what we always take, like, what I say quite a lot is about taking like an intelligent approach to your trekking.
Yeah.
Part of the intelligent approach is booking with EverTrek, and the other
nicely transition, mate.
Yeah, nice. But no, the main reason is what I'm saying is, you know, because there are certain mountain rules and things like that everybody follows and everybody does to keep safe. So put yourself in that bubble, you know, immediately before the trek even starts. Put yourself in the bubble where you know everything that you're doing is completely within your capability. You're not going to be doing something that's potentially outside of your capability. Now, to be honest, I'm not saying don't do like epic, awesome trips, you know, but if you're going to do something that's epic and awesome and you're going to squeak by and get home just before night, bring a tent and stay the extra day. All that does is it means you have a nice night while camping and you've stayed within the bubble, you know, because one thing that Brecon has taught me is just how changeable things can be.
Yeah.
You know, but one of the things that I've always done now, I took a lot of lessons from, you know, people that I admire. And one of the guys who I really, really like is a guy called Sean Conway.
Yeah, he's a very inspirational guy, isn't he?
Yeah, huge, big ginger beard. He did a Length of Britain triathlon.
Yeah.
But he does like a lot of endurance races. One of the things he always talks about, and I've completely nicked it and used it myself, is the 5 pistons of endurance. So this is all Sean Conway's idea, nothing to do with me. But he talks about food, water, sleep, muscle management, and mindset. And he believes a mindset is the single most important one, because the others, you know, you can get by on lack of sleep. There's a degree of you can go without. You can go thirsty and you can go hungry, and you can recover from those things.
Yeah.
And all the pistons can keep firing. But if you lose the mindset and the will to do it, then, you know, all of those things can collapse. Now, it happened to me on Saturday. You know, I was walking, and we were on that bog, and it was so tough.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like, I remember I said to Andy, and I'm this close to throwing my toys out the pram. I was like, if I don't get off this box, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. So, but yeah, and then it was about just, sit down, take a break, relax, have something to eat. As soon as I had something to eat, stretch my leg a little bit, I felt great, and I was able to.
Yeah, you were a bit. It perked you up a bit. Mentally, give you a kick up the backside almost.
Yeah. Actually, Dawa Tashi Sherpa's here today.
Oh, really? Nice. Hey, Dawa, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, so basically, Dawa is one thing he's mentioned here is he has a very painful story. So, Dawa was one of a few of the Sherpas that survived a huge avalanche in the icefall. So good man, really good guide. But
look at Dawa. I've had the pleasure of trekking with Dawa quite a few times to Everest Base Camp. Fantastic guide. And he's got a very interesting story, because it's he's very lucky, he'll say himself very lucky to be alive, and although when you're talking about pain, I mean, Dawa, great to see you on, mate. I know you've got a great story. If you Google Dawa, by the way, you'll be able to see his story. He was interviewed by CNN, and there's a lot going on there because obviously he lost a lot of family members and friends. I know it was a tough time, but he talks about it. He's sort of turned a way of helping people. He actually set up his own clothing line called Dawa Gear, which is fantastic. And I take my hat off to you, mate, literally, for setting that up and obviously supporting, your family and the Sherpa community, mate. So fantastic. So have a look at Dawa Gear, guys, if you
exactly.
If you see it around, and check him on Instagram. He's got loads up on there.
Awesome.
As we crack on, I know what we've been talking now. It's about 10 or 15 minutes already. Dave, I think we'll start taking some questions on because I think we've got about 15 or 16 already. Let's have a little look. Any that you've spotted, Dave, so far?
So Dewey Davis has asked, has the new Yeti been announced yet?
Yeah.
Well,
good question, Dewey.
Yeah, good question. So not as of yet. We've just come off the back of a huge, really busy period with the promotion that we did about the competition and giving away that. So that's a huge, big, busy period for us. So during that time, we've allowed people to apply. Now we've collated, and we'll be in a position, I think, probably within the next couple of weeks. What do you reckon? Even sooner than that?
Even sooner than that, anyone that we be taken through to sort of interview stage, because we want to meet as many people as we can. We've had a lot of applications. I think it was about several hundred that we had. But Dewey, thanks for the video you sent, mate. It was great to see some of the mountains as well. But we'll definitely be getting back to people, sort of let them know. So good question. What else we got here? Let's have a look. Just going through. Jim's mentioned the website all sorted. We've had a lot of we put a little post out in the High Altitude EverTrekkers group because we realized that about 2 weeks ago we had like crazy amount of people on the website, and it actually has caused a lot of issues. So we're actually moving over to a new server. It was meant to be done on Monday. It's actually, with regards to it's working a lot better now, but actually we are moving it the next couple of days. So we'll be putting out another post because actually we've set up the server now. Obviously we're not doing it here. We've got a team who manage the website and everything for us, and they're doing that. So look, to everyone that's watching, if you're having any niggly issues, if it's certain specific things, then just drop us an email rather than put in the groups, because we don't always see the stuff in the group. But if you send it directly to us, we can manage that, and get that done. But with regards to the speed, and we made a lot of developments. We're always trying to constantly improve things for our community, whether that be having all access to all the information. I think Dave Rimington put up there about some sort of marketplace and shop. Like, we've had a store that we've been working on for a long time now. So all this stuff, unfortunately, because of the development side, it does, when one thing sort of gets developed, it always affects another thing. It's not as easy as just plug and play. It's a lot of developments we're doing because lots of the stuff we're doing hasn't been done before. So apologies if you had any downtime or any issues. We're doing it from the positive way. We're trying to develop this in a positive way. So do bear with us if you're having any issues. And like I said, just pop us an email if there's anything specific. like if a trip's not showing up, you know, things like that. Sometimes it's, don't think that you're not booked in, nothing like that at all. Ultimately, you know, if you book onto a trip, you're booked in. It just might be a little tech issue on the website. Okay. So yeah, but yeah, thanks for that question there, Jim.
Yeah. So I've spotted 2 questions that I think quite interesting. I don't think we've ever been asked them before.
Okay, awesome.
So Leah has asked, first of all, is turning around really an option?
Yeah, good question.
On Killy, unless you want to get sick. And
yeah,
well, first of all, turning around is always an option
on
any trip that you do. That's us or on your own, you know. There's an element of, you know, the people that come on these trips with us, they're not holidays, it's adventure travel. So you guys are there because you want to reach the summit, you know, and that's really what drives you. But, you know, I don't think it's ever happened with us, but, you know, some people, or maybe one person got years and years ago, I think the only person we've ever had helicoptered off due to homesickness instead of altitude sickness.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was, I mean, you know, these trips are big, but I think, yeah, they miss their family a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I think, you know, one of the things we talk about mindset is, you know, the reason that you guys have tuned in today, the reason you booked, the reason you fly all the way out to Tanzania and start walking up a massive volcano is because you've got that sense of adventure. And it's hard. This is when we're talking about pushing through. Sometimes that sense of adventure can get eroded, you know, when things are hard, when things are tough. Because the thing about adventure is it doesn't always feel nice at the time. You know, you have to, the reason that it's such an achievement and why it stays with you for a lifetime once you've done it is because it's really incredibly difficult to do, you know. So that's why I think keeping your mind in the right place, sometimes taking a break and turning around and facing away from the hill, actually looking at the view, looking where you've come from, talking to your mates, having some banter, you know, it really does make a massive difference, and it keeps all those other pistons firing, you know. So that's why I really, really like it.
No, I like that, mate. I like that. I just saw one here actually. I think Leah put any mantras when pushing through the pain. I love that. Just keep swimming from Dory. I love that film, Finding Nemo, and Finding Dory. But yeah, a big one. Just want to share. I think I've written about this a few times because I think you know, whenever you hit that wall or anything, just remember why you're there, what you're doing it for. Maybe if you're raising money for charity, maybe you're doing it just to prove something to yourself. Maybe if it's like, well, that big bucket list challenge, sometimes you kind of, you know, you're like, you're down in the dumps. It is hard to pick yourself back up, but just remember why you're there. You chose to be there. You chose to put yourself through that. And I know it's nuts. You think, Jesus, why am I put myself through much pain? But like Dave said, you know, if it was easy, then it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't, you know. So you're going to go through that. So yeah, just remember that. Why are you there? Ask yourself. And then prove it to yourself. Say, okay, I'm going to do this, you know.
I think my mantra is, well, on Saturday, it was the Wallace and Gromit theme tune, you know.
So random. Yeah.
You know, so as I'm walking, it's just turning it over in my head. You know, and it's, just whatever. I think, you know, just being able to laugh at yourself, you know, like, you know, or laugh at someone else if you're not finding yourself very funny. Because when Andy fell over, was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Initially, I was a bit worried.
Glad you enjoyed that.
Initially, we were a bit worried because if he'd broken his leg, it might have been a sort of mountain rescue situation based on where we were.
Yeah.
And to step across a stream, put his foot on a rock, and there was nothing. There was no resistance. It was just like...
It was just like slick as. Yeah.
He landed on his side, but the stream was just about to fall down. So as he landed, he kind of then like sort of peeked up and then almost...
Yeah, my legs went in the air. I know, it's just one of those things. You know,
it's normally me falling over, so it was nice to see someone else hit the deck.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because it's been a while for me, but you know, we all fall. We all fall. And I hate to use that cliche, you know, we all fall. You got to learn to pick yourself back up again.
Yeah.
Off Batman, that one, isn't it? But it's true. You know, you have got to learn to sort of dust yourself off and say, okay, so what? You know, luckily, like Dave said, I don't have any injuries, but you kind of think, okay, maybe next time I'll probably be a little bit more careful when stepping on slick rocks, because, you know, at the end of the day, it was my error. It was just something we did, and we all do it. It happens. You know, we sort of move on. But yeah, with regards to other questions, I quite like this one actually. I don't think we've asked this one before. Sinead asked why we do the Three Peaks, Three Passes trip? Why do we do it clockwise than anti-clockwise? A really good question, actually, Sinead. Firstly, we're always quite flexible with this because it always depends on weather and the conditions. Because you're right, you're thinking, right, you go to base camp first and then go back. I think what we found is we've had some people who made base camp and then kind of think they're done, so don't want to do the passes, whereas if you've already done the passes, base camp's actually surprisingly easy. That's what we've done before, but we are potentially looking at making some adjustments, haven't we, Dave? We've been in touch with the guys in Nepal, just kind of thinking, is this the best route? Because look, all the routes we do, we're always looking to tweak them if they're better for you guys, and certainly we'll sort of let you know with those. We won't make them sort of technically longer or shorter if we can, but we'll definitely make sure they're the best, so you have the best chance of success.
Yeah.
But with Dave, would you anything to add on that? The Three Peaks, Three Passes?
Initially, because it's been because when we set it up, we always try and do things a little bit differently. And one thing that we wanted to try and do was develop a trip that's, because the Three Peaks is like the most hardcore trip. Beyond that, you're climbing a mountain. So what we wanted to try and do was just create it and make that one little thing a little bit different than the way everybody else does. So by going a slightly different route. Now it is always weather dependent. Sometimes we'll revert and do the other way. But what we've tried to do is create a route that no one else is doing, or very few people.
Yeah, which is always difficult because, the world's so big.
Exactly. So when you are doing something like the Three Peaks and you go in a slightly different route, it's really good because you're sort of off schedule to the crowds. So when they're arriving at one place, you're somewhere else and it's quite quiet. So it kind of gave us a little bit of an edge and a little bit of a sort of a unique feel to it. However, like I said, whenever it comes to anything like the high passes or the summits, we're always very flexible. Ultimately, whatever the itinerary is, the guides have total autonomy to basically make calls in real time about which way they go and where they go. Because our itineraries are written out, years in advance, so if I book a trip today, but I'm going in 2023, well, the route might be different in 2023, so we always allow that to happen.
It's always, I think you're right there, Dave, in terms of flexibility. It's a really good question, Sinead. I know you booked in, mate. I can't wait to have you because I know you've already been to base camp with us. And it's a great route. I'm just trying to see if anyone, I'm seeing any comments from people who have done that route with us, but I can't see anyone on here. But it is a great route. It's hard. It's challenging. I'd say it's the most challenging route to get to Everest Base Camp. So you've got a good one there. So it's always worth. Go on, sorry.
Oh, sorry, mate. Go on, carry on.
No, I was just saying, Sinead there. She's built up the highest pass. Yeah, it was with I think that's Kongmela is kind of the last pass. As we because you've got Renjola, then you've got Shola after you go through the Gokyo Valley. Drop down the other side into the Khumbu Valley, if you like, and then reach Everest Base Camp. Then you come back a bit, and then you back over then to Kongmela, which drops into to Shukung, which is basically at the base of Island Peak. So you can see Island Peak there, and to the left you can see the Lhotse face. It's fantastic. So it's Sinead, whichever route you do, mate, you'll smash it, no doubt. I know what you like. But it's absolutely a fantastic trip.
One person did ask about whether they heard that you have to be vegetarian on the EBC trip, and whether that's the case or not. Yes, it is.
Good question. Good question.
So in Tanzania, when you go up to Kilimanjaro, you can eat meat because we have a proper chef who can provide proper heat, and we got access to good food that we can do it. In the mountains of Nepal, it's important to adopt a vegetarian diet. I adopt it right from Lukla. So Lukla to Lukla, I'll just be eating nothing but a vegetarian diet.
Yeah.
The reason is because the power up there is very intermittent. So when you're storing things like meat and the lodges, that meat can be stored for a while before it's actually ever cooked. Now, if it's stored for a week, you might have 2 power cuts in that time, but they might potentially still serve it. So I remember a story about Barry, a guy who came with us back in April. And on day 1, I remember saying to him, don't drink alcohol and don't eat meat. Yeah, cool, no worries. You're your own guy. And I arrive at the end of the first day and he's cracked open a can of Everest beer and he's eating a chicken burger.
I remember that. And I was like...
and I remember thinking, like, fair play to you, mate, but you rolled the dice now. You've gone, and yeah.
What have you said to him? We're not the company to tell you so, but I told you so.
Yeah, well, Barry, I'm not gonna, I'm never ever gonna say I told you so, but
great guy.
Yeah, awesome guy. He made EBC, but unfortunately, it probably wasn't as enjoyable as he thought it would have been. I think he lost about a stone in weight and was struggling to eat and diarrhea. So it was touch and go for him a little while. But no, he made it. But like I said, it's just really not worth it. The last time I was in Kathmandu, I got ill, but I did the whole trip fine, and I got ill in Kathmandu. And if that had happened on the trail, forget about it.
It's gonna be hard, isn't it? Yeah, your energy, isn't it? It's just if your energy's gone, you're struggling. Why risk it? I mean, we all like. I'm a meat eater. I know Dave. I know you're the same. But just for 2 weeks, just to protect yourself, really. Because you have a dodgy belly, it's going to be even harder than it normally is. But like you said, Dave, on Kili, it kind of seems the way, doesn't it, with regards to eating meat? It kind of seems fine, and it was fine for us.
It's because we don't need, it's not going to be stored for a very long time.
Yeah.
So it's possible to get things like cooked chicken. They've got refrigeration bags and stuff like that. So it can all be kept safe and good to eat. And we also have a chef there that's got gas power and stuff like that. So we can always cook things thoroughly and make sure that it's safe to eat, and we can boil water whenever we need to. So it's a lot easier than relying on a lodge. So when we take things into our own hands, we can make a call on whether the food is good to serve or not. When we're relying on, restaurant service, I say restaurant, but tea lodge service, is a little bit different.
I'm just going some really good questions here, aren't there, Dave?
Was asked. I think I've got a stream of questions, and
it's great. It's great. It's great to see some more people. I know Jerome, he's always on. Great to see you, Jerome, as well.
How long do you get at EBC to take it all in? That's relative. It depends on the weather. It also depends on sort of how you're feeling and how the group overall is feeling. But generally speaking, I mean, I've had as little as half an hour there, and then in October I spent 2 hours.
Yeah, so, it just depends, doesn't it?
Yeah, it depends on the weather and how you're feeling and how early you get there, because you don't want to be getting back late when it's getting dark. So if you get up early and the group and yourself are all pretty strong and you make really good time, and when you get to EBC, the weather's warm and nice, it's lovely. You can spend a couple of hours or so there. I spent 2 hours there just taking pictures, seeing everybody, waiting for the rest of the group to arrive, and then we all went back together.
Yeah, it was the ice wall. It was quite cool.
Exactly, yeah. But then one time I was there and it was so cold. I was I had a cup of tea, and I was like, right, okay, I'm off.
I remember that. No, some really good ones. Chris Haslam. Chris, great to see you on here, mate. You asked about plenty of drinking water available on Kili. Yes, there are. We do use the water filters. But they do boil it anyway on the mountain, so that's all there for you. It's sometimes good to take I've taken a life straw, or if you use water to go bottles, you can use them. But we introduced the water filters out there, so you can use, so your water's purified.
Yeah.
We kind of started that in Nepal February, March last year, in 2019.
Yeah.
And we've tried to, introduce that on all of our trips. That's kind of our plan. That was our plan going forward, and it's we've introduced that. It's brilliant. Some other questions. There was one other question I really liked, actually, and I thought I'd like to take it on. Where was it? And I thought it was quite important. It was how do you keep headstrong when feeling the cold? So I presume how do you how do you deal with a cold when you get it? Is that the way I read it, Dave? Is that right? How do you deal with a cold there?
Yeah. So whose question is it?
I think it was Jennifer's. It's a good question, I think, because we talked about this a little bit on the weekend about, if you're going through some bad weather, how do you stay positive? How do you even almost consciously know that you're cold or wet, but you still continue and you still enjoy it? Yeah. And it's the same with cold. Obviously the wet is hard because it does get you down, but if you're all wet, but sometimes, it's almost like it's not a big thing, and I know it is. When you're cold, you want to get hypothermic, but almost if you if you put that up there and say, okay, I'm going to put that on a pedestal, if you like, it's really important that if I'm cold, I'm going to have a bad time. You've got to almost accept that that's going to happen. And, it's one of those things that you're going to get cold. So it's, you have to almost deal with it in a way that it's not going to bring you down. Just almost accept it as part of the challenge. And then when you don't even have to think about it, you'd be surprised. You almost, it's your subconscious is dealing with it, but your conscious is enjoying yourself because you're not worrying about it.
Yeah.
You're not thinking negatively about being cold, because obviously you've got to have the right equipment. You've got to have decent gloves, socks, decent hat. The right equipment does help. But in some places, I mean, you can have the best gear, but you're still going to get cold.
Yeah.
So you've got to accept that.
I think like when we were walking up Kilimanjaro, the other thing I would say is when you're actually on a trek, whether you go into the Kili or EBC,
yeah,
generally speaking, if you've got the right equipment and you're moving, you're not going to get so cold that it's ever going to be, so like, I mean, dangerous, you're going to be cold, but there's a difference between being cold and then being cold to the, to the degree where you might get hypothermia. You're never going to be so cold that you'll get hypothermia or left in that situation. The guides will be there to look after you. So the first thing I'll say is when I was talking at the beginning about staying within that bubble, so you can do things that are uncomfortable, you can push yourself, but you've set the scene so you're within a bubble of sort of security, So, and part of that when you go on one of our trips is the guides and the team there. They know the weather, they know the terrain, they know the country, and they know how to look after people. So you can almost shelve that and let them look after you in terms of your life. And what you can concentrate on is just enjoying yourself. If you are getting cold, there's certain things you can do to perk yourself up. So like Andy said, part of it is not, you can acknowledge the cold. I mean, I'm cold now, but that's not the end of the world. I want to keep moving, keep doing stuff. The moment you stop is when it becomes very hard to motivate yourself to keep on.
Yeah.
But also what I like to do is, hot drink, hand warmers, snacks. I can't emphasize like how much that'll improve your overall mood. If you're, feeling quite cold and, you stop for a break and stuff, if you have like a hot drink, even if it's just hot water and a Mars bar, you'll be like, you'll feel so much more, ready for the challenge and stuff like that.
Yeah. Got a big one as well. I think Rich has mentioned this. Rich Davis mentioned about he had a little alert from his bank about a new direct debit. Yeah, just anyone who's on here who's ever had like one of the things we like to do is to help people financially spread their payments. So if you're booking on a trip with us, some people like to just pay before they go. Some people pay up front, which is cool, and then some people like to go on our pay monthly plans. But unfortunately, we've go cardless. Basically, they migrated us over to a different part of their system. So basically, they sent out to anyone who's ever had a payment plan with us, which is quite a lot of people, even if you've already finished paying. But if you're watching this and you've received that, we did try and contact everyone by email who's ever had basically a direct debit with us, just to let you know of that actual scenario. So apologies if you didn't get it. I think Lauren there has just mentioned that do check your junk folder, because basically it's not setting up a new direct debit for you if you didn't have one. If you haven't got a direct debit with us, then it's not setting anything up. It's just moving you over to a new system. So yeah, it's unfortunately not great from Go Cardless. They did that. We tried to sort of address it as much as we can. It's almost frustrating from us because we're just using a bit of software and then they just email everyone, and it's like, what are they doing? So we try to address that just by contacting everyone, say, look, even my sister who came on a trip with us 2 years ago was like, what's going on? I got a direct debit. So look, we hopefully you've got that email just to explain that it's not setting anything new up. If you've got a direct debit with us, it's exactly the same. They're just migrating over to a new system. If you haven't got a direct debit with us, it's exactly the same. You haven't got an active direct debit. So apologies if it caused any concern. Know what it's like. I've had some fraud myself financially, and it's it can be a little bit scary. So apologies if that did sort of come out to you, and it caused any distress. But yeah, it's just purely moving over to a new system. All right, guys.
Awesome. Ramona's just mentioned a good point as well, which I want to talk about. So Ramona's awesome. She's been on one of our trips. She did EBC last year. I think she's booked on, I don't know, she might be booked on 20 trips now. I'm not entirely sure.
Ramona has booked on quite a lot.
A comment there about don't drink alcohol. And then that's one thing I want to say as well about when you go, particularly when you go to Everest, because all the lodges sell beer and whiskey and rum and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Our advice is to not have any of it. What you want to do when you're sort of acclimatizing and when you're trekking at altitude is you want to stay hydrated and you want to avoid having a nasty headache. Now, I'm pretty sure some of you have had alcohol before and know the two things that it pretty much is always 100% guaranteed to do is dehydrate you and give you a nasty headache. Yeah. So there's a couple of problems there. If it dehydrates you, but you're not hungover, that can potentially then lead to altitude sickness. But if you have a headache, it can sort of mimic the experiences of altitude sickness. So quite often when I'm asked to describe what altitude sickness feels like, my best answer is, have you ever had a really bad hangover? You know, one of those like, I'm in bed hangovers, so yeah, my advice to everyone is, don't touch alcohol on the trip. It's only 11 days. You can have a real big party when you get back to Lukla. You can have squeak a few in when you're on your way down and you get to Namche, because worst case scenario, you've got 1 day and you've already on your way down, so it's relatively safe. But in my advice, save it for Lukla, have a good old knees up in the Scottish bar, and and then when you get back to Kathmandu, you're on your own. But in the mountains, I would say definitely avoid alcohol.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, before the very first time I went to Everest Base Camp, before even the company was in existence, I had a few beers on the way up, and I think in Namche I probably had one or two too many on the way up, because I didn't really understand the sort of science of it. Certainly regretted that the day after, that's for sure. Luckily, it didn't affect my trip, but I certainly learned a lesson, and that's why we always we all enjoy a beer. We want to make sure we're keeping hydrated. So let's do it on the way down. So I think it's a good shout there, mate. What else have we got? That's quite funny, actually, because I think it was Reese, when you were talking about beer there. I think Reese said, I can't remember saying that, Reese, but yeah, apparently I said I'm getting everyone a beer.
That's a weekly occurrence, and every week.
Reese, I'll definitely get you. Yeah, no worries.
Actually, come up with a good question. Now, this is something that a lot of people ask as well, right?
Okay.
You're not the fastest when it comes to hiking. On previous trips, you've been at the back and quite slow. Do the group stay together when you go to EBC?
Yeah, I like that question. I'm going to bring it in. Go for it, Dave.
It's a brilliant question, and it's one of my favorites because it's a time. When you trek at altitude, it's a time for the slow people to really shine. Yeah. Because there is no pace really that's too slow. As long as you're making progress and you're walking, that's a good pace. Yeah. But we really, really don't want people going too fast. So if we can keep the group together, we can. Naturally throughout the day, it'll stretch out. Some people slightly faster, some people slightly slower, and then you come together and stretch. We're like a caterpillar going up the mountain. But one thing I will say is, go at your pace. That's what's important. Now, the reason is because the longer it takes for you to get from A to B, the longer that you've had to acclimatize from A to B. So day by day, that will have a really positive effect on your ability to manage yourself when you're really high up. I've known people on the mountains before who are super athletic, super fit, super competitive, and they've ran off on day 1, ran off on day 2, ran off on day 3. And when they get to Everest Base Camp, us turtles, or tortoises rather, we're like Ferraris. We feel great. We acclimatize well. And one of the ways that I've always said it is that it takes eight days to get to base camp.
Yeah.
If you're 2 hours behind the first person to arrive every day, 16 hours more acclimatization you've had. When someone says 16 hours really make a difference, what I like to say is stay awake for 16 hours and go and try and perform at your best. So 16 hours is a huge amount of time for you to acclimatize. Even if it's an hour, it's still 8 hours, which is still a really good night's sleep. We all know how well we feel after 8 hours sleep. Well, it's the same with acclimatization, So Asher, yes, we do keep the group together. The guides will always be at both ends of the group as well. And I guarantee you'll have company. My father, Doug, actually, he did base camp, and he developed true mountain pace. I often say that he's like, there's a type of moss that only grows on the back of Doug's. as they walk up the mountain, because he's so
Brilliant.
slow. But yeah, enjoy it. It's not about how fast you go. It's about enjoying it and getting there and getting the achievement for yourself.
Yeah, nicely said, mate. There's been a few questions on here around fitness and plans, things like that. There's been separate questions, so I won't bring anyone in, but with regards to training and things like that, yes, 100%. I think it was actually, I think Chris mentioned, I'm trying to find something. Yeah, I think it's Chris Clifford-Hurst mentioned about sort of training plans, whether it's running or hitting the gym. Yeah, there's a lot you can do. One thing we've recently done, just to take advantage of if you booked on with us, is with the altitude center. Now, obviously, you can use our training plans, and they all work. You think we've used them the last couple of years. You can get access to them if you download. You can download them in your members area. And they're like sort of 7 or 8 week plans that kind of build up. And the thing is, you don't need to be super fit. It does help. It really does. You have a better time. Usually, it's literally just getting pack on your back, getting out in the mountains, putting some time in the mountains, building up that leg strength, just getting comfortable with a pack on your back and just getting some hours under your belt, really. But yeah, if you're doing any like strength training, things like that, if you go into the gym, it's only going to work. I read something a while back now, and I used to, I'm quite big on, is that if you're doing any sort of weights to failure. So, for instance, you imagine if you're doing any bench pressing, for instance, and you're almost until you can't do any more. Apparently, that's really good for your muscles when they're at altitude because they've gone to failure. And I think if you're doing things like single leg movement exercises, or leg press, deadlifts, things like that, it's only going to help. So certainly, take advantage of that with the altitude center. Sort of form we have on the members area. That was what I was trying to lead to. If you do go on to the members area, fill in the form, and the altitude center will get in touch with like a free personalized training plan. It's something we're really, really happy about. Been working on for a few months now. Sam and the team there, they're a great bunch of guys. They know exactly that they got that kind of scientific approach that we do like. They do have the it's the altitude center, so they do have chambers there where they can actually take you up to a certain height and you can exercise at that height. It's pretty cool. Not saying it actually stops you from getting altitude sickness. It doesn't. It can't do that. But it will certainly give a feeling of what it's like, in terms of taking you up to a certain level. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely have a look at that if you booked in with us. That's why we done it for you guys. We want you to have the best things that are out there, training plans. Because the more you do now, the easier you'll get. You have a better time. And ultimately you'll have more success. So yeah, definitely utilize that.
Awesome. There's a couple of questions. So looking at so Gam, you've asked a couple of questions. So the first one you asked was, when do you think do we think we have a date when we'll be going back to Nepal and running our trips this autumn?
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, we're very positive that that's going to happen. We do have time set aside today to actually speak to the team over in Nepal. And actually speak to some of the tourism ministers like that, and actually find out what exactly the situation is over in Nepal. So yeah, we'll be having that conversation this week, and updating everybody as and when we can. Your second question, which is I quite like actually. So you've been to EBC, or at least you went to EBC last year, and you're disappointed that you had to come back from Gorakshep. You were perfectly fine until you got to Gorakshep, but then you got ill and had to come back. Does that mean you'll never be able to do EBC ever? It doesn't mean that you won't ever be able to go back and do EBC at all. What it means is that on your way to Gorakshep, obviously because nothing would have happened when altitude is a gradual process, altitude sickness. So you would have probably exhibited signs before you got to Gorakshep that you were starting to struggle a little bit with the altitude. And then Gorakshep is not a very easy place to be if you haven't acclimatized well. It's very high up, it's quite cold, it's relatively basic. So that's why we want to acclimatize you very well. And when I was talking to Asher about going very slowly, again, my father, if I use him as an example, Doug. So we went to base camp together in 2017. And he turned around from Le Boucher. So he left Le Boucher, was on the road 20 minutes before he realized that he couldn't do it and he wasn't feeling well. So he turned around and went back. And then last year in October, he made it to base camp, and he was 61 when he made it to base camp, and he was 59 when he first tried. So, or 58. So that goes to show. So we made, I should know his age.
I know, I was going to say that's he's your dad.
It sounds like there's going to be some adjustments that you need to make. One of them might have been training before you went. One of them might have been the pace of which you got to Gorekshep. I'd be interested to know whether you got to Gorekshep in 8 days or 7. We do ours, it takes 8 days. So that's a longer period to acclimatize. And also maybe look at things like Diamox as well, which might actually further help you. But yeah, no, all the best, Graham. Yeah, it was a good question.
Yeah, nice. Really good question, Gam. I think Dave Rimmington. Dave always on these lives. Mate, great to see you here. You mentioned about getting phone signal at the top of EBC, just a little video call. Yeah, it's always very intermittent, Like there is Wi-Fi on the trail, which is great when you're in the tea houses. The difficulty is getting it when you stay at EBC. It can be possible during summit season, so in the spring, because they've actually put in literally phone masts at base camp. They're only temporary, and so it's you don't want to rely on that. Then another thing that people have done and we've done is you get a local handset. Say you spend maybe 50, 60, 70 pounds on getting a really old handset, but good enough for a little video call. So say it's like 3 or 4 year old phone, and you can actually get a local SIM from Nepal. And again, although it sometimes works, it works for making calls, but with data, it's very intermittent. But there is a chance that could work. I've never done a video call from base camp. I know some people who have, and it's happened. But again, it's very small chance of it happening. Most people just record some videos, and then when they get to Gorekshep or when they get to the Wi-Fi, and then they send them. It's the same day, but it's not actually live at that time. I'd love to. I think that would be great if you could do it, but unfortunately, it's geographically where you are. It's quite a challenging place to get signal.
I made a phone call from EBC in October, so it is expensive. If you're with Vodafone, I know you get good signal in the mountains. With EE, I was with EE before, and I didn't get very good signal. So I know with Vodafone you can get good signal, but yeah, the data is probably not great at EBC. But yeah, a Gorekshep there certainly will be.
Nice. I'm just going through, Dave. Any other questions? I know we've got if you're still on, and we see still got loads of you on here, just pop some questions. I think Julie mentioned something about hiring something at home. I presume, Julie, that's the is that the altitude tents? Because I think you mentioned that when I was talking about the altitude center. Yeah, they do have, because we've been discussing this with them around using the altitude tents at home. We're working on something. I suppose we come at it from two different ways, because they do help, and they do use them for different clients who go to EBC, Kili, things like that. And there is some science around that. But the thing is, all the things we're passionate about, your training, your mindset, going out there is good enough to get you to Everest Base Camp. You don't need to have these tents to have the success. They do make small gains, and the science is there about it does help. But what we don't want to, the road we don't want to go down to is that you must have these tents to succeed. Whereas we know you could do it anyway. So if it's going to supplement it, like if we do start doing that, because we have this discussions with them, if we do say, because you're more than happy for you to get in touch with them and do it. But I think I'm just trying to, I hope I'm putting this the right way here, is that we don't feel like you need to use them to reach Everest Base Camp, because you don't. Hundreds and literally thousands of people reach Everest Base Camp or the summit of Kili without using these. In literally the advice we talked about, keeping hydrated, going at a decent pace, having a strong mindset, doing the fitness before you go.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of our opinion, and there's loads of opinions out there, but that's kind of ours.
Yeah, exactly.
Excuse me.
It's one of those things as well. So when the majority of the time that people use altitude tents at home, because they're not very pleasant, by the way, they're very loud, they give you headaches, they're not very nice to do. And people use them when they're summiting, So if they're summiting an 8,000 meter peak, they'll use them. 7,000 meter peak, they maybe use them. Anything less than that, to be honest, I'm not sure that the cost and the time and effort associated is worth the payoff. because you can acclimatize well enough without it. And what we don't want to get people to do, like Andy said, is reliant on these things and set the tone that you can only get to base camp if you can have one of these altitude tents, and also you don't want to sort of use the altitude tent at home and then head out to the environment assuming that you're completely acclimatized and be lax on the mountain rules. So when it comes to EBC, I'd encourage people that staying hydrated and walking slowly, managing your pace and your diet will have a huge impact on your acclimatization, way more than a tent.
Nice. Yeah, I hope that helps, Julie.
Heather Newman asked me, how's my bike training going? So, to be honest, I haven't been out. I have got a new bike though, so I got a Ribble.
No excuses now, Dave.
Yeah, I got no excuses. Yeah, so I've got a Ribble. So yeah, I'm going to be hitting the roads pretty hard soon. And when I say I needed it, I have a new bike. I didn't need a new bike. I already have about 5. But you know, some people collect, you know, mugs. Some people collect pictures. I seem to collect bikes. But yeah, no, got the new Ribble, so really excited to take that out and hit the trails. But yeah. So hang on a minute. Was that Dominic that asked, or was that Heather?
I'm sorry, I just heard the train go past. I was thinking, wow, that sounds loud in my ear. It was just behind you.
Yeah, so Dominic or Heather, whichever one of you. Yeah, yeah, it was going.
It was heavy. Yeah.
Then it slowed down because we got really busy, and I tried to do some trekking. Probably going to get back on the bike again soon.
Yeah, nice, mate. Nice. It looks like a nice bike. Just go and say and make sure we've answered every question. If you have asked a question we haven't, because they do come through quite quickly here, you know, we will try and answer it. I've just spotted one from Chris Clifford Hurst again about geocache on EBC. I've never seen that, actually. I love the geocaching, though. I think it's fantastic. You know, there's like going over, you know, finding certain things. I know they do it in the UK quite a lot and around Europe. I'm not sure if there is one in EBC. Dave, do you have any knowledge on that?
No. No. I'll be honest with you, did you say geocache?
Geocache, yes.
Yeah.
That's a no. No worries.
Yeah, no. Chris has asked me how he doesn't know how I've got any money whatsoever. I mean, Chris, don't assume that there's hundreds of money out there. No. Also, by the way, all of this kit that I have, I built up over a while, you know, so I try not to spend so much. I'd be lying if I said I didn't spend a lot at any one time, but I also try and build it up over time, you know, and, you know,
yeah.
It's mental, though. It is literally everywhere. I'm surrounded by it. Like right here, for instance, just in the office. I've got a pair of Montaigne trekking trousers. No need for it. You know.
Well, Dave, it's always, you know, just in case. You know, just in case. Yeah. Right, a couple of the Chris's coming towards us the end here. Chris, great to see you on here, mate. You bought a new pair of boutards. Awesome. Toes on right foot, keep rubbing on top of the boot. It's always a challenge. I think, Chris, when it comes to these kind of things, yeah. It might be worth that the insole might not be the right one, because it's not always, you know, one fits all. We'd like to think that. So it might be worth trying some insoles. I think if you can, Chris, if there's a local store near to you, you know, whether it's Cotswold Outdoor, I'm not sure, or as an outdoor store, just get in there, maybe have a chat with them, because they'll be able to see what's going on there. It's always hard because, you know, the Mindel Bhutan's a great boot. Like I wore them on Saturday. Dave, I know you did. We know they're brilliant boots, but like anything, it's not everything kind of works as such for everyone. So yeah, if they do rub for you and you can't solve it, I think it's one of those trial by error. I think maybe looking at something else, whether that be you've got the North Face Hedgehog GTX boots. They're really good for base camp. You know, you've got the Salomon range. There's loads of different types of boots there, and I know it's kind of the cliche when people say, oh yeah, make sure you try on your boots and in store and stuff. It's hard because especially during lockdown, you can only order them online. Yeah, you know, it's always difficult. It is trial and error, but I think you bear with it, because I know that when I tried certain insoles with my boot, and I think they were super feet, and then I moved to a different make. I'll double check that make. They didn't really. It hurt my feet a bit. It was a bit too much. But then I switched to other insole and it worked. So it might be just trying some other insoles, you know, because they are, you know, if you can get say 4 or 5 and then trial them, and then see if it works. If it's on the top, then maybe your insole's too thick because it's pushing your foot up. Maybe. Again, I'm kind of guessing here, Chris. But if I were you, mate, I'd be getting to a store and speaking to, you know, to an expert on the boot side of things. I think. But that's just our opinion there. I hope it, you can solve that and let us know how you get on. Any others, Dave?
I just want to say, geocaching, finding those hidden geocaches that are all around there and, recording that.
Did you Google this?
Yeah, no. I think that, I love geocaching.
I'll test you on that.
I've never heard of it before.
No, it's fantastic. I know a lot of people do it. It's different. I know on the treks and things they're kind of trying to introduce it, but just looking at this. Okay, I think that's it. I think we've gone through a lot here, guys. I think Dave, we'll finish up there. I know we've been almost an hour again, but it's been fantastic. Thanks for everyone that's kind of joined us again. Like I said, we'll continue to do these going forward. We love doing them. We hope that you see a little bit of value. I know we always try to talk about this particular subject and then go on to all the other stuff, but I hope that does sort of help in some way. We'll be back next week. It's kind of a lot going on, like I said, with regards to if you're on the beginning of the Tuesday tune-in, we talked about the server and moving the website over. So if you do see any sort of outages, it's only temporary. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of a changeover because we want to move to this faster server. We've got a lot of information now on the website, so we want to make sure that's as speedy as possible. So do bear with us with that one. But we'll be in touch. But cheers, Dave. Always another good one, mate.
Yeah, I just want to quickly shout out to Tom. Okay. Who said, "Who does my tattoos?" Kimmy Carr Thomas in Newport, James Reuter Tattoos in Germany, and Ollie Pinder down in Brighton. Check them out.
Nice. There we go.
Other than that, awesome, guys.
Great stuff. Yeah, cheers, everyone. And we'll catch up next week. If you are listening, couldn't wait to see all of this. We'll put it on YouTube and also the Mountain Malarkey podcast as well by Thursday. But great to see everyone on.
Awesome, guys.
Bye.
See you again.